show and nutrition education for all with our host, Kelly Springer. Kelly, how are you? And I know you're excited about our guest today. First podcast, we kind of really went into self-care. Now we're going to focus our attention with older adults. And Kelly, I appreciate you coming by.
Oh, well, I am so thrilled to have to be on the show today and to also have Dr. Ron Kaiser. He is a psychologist and also, or sorry, psychologist, right, sir? And also author and expert on positive aging, creator of the Rejuvenating concepts. Dr. Kaiser inspires people to embrace, along with their enthusiasm, and focusing on mental and physical well-being, resilience, and positive outlook on life. So thank you, Doctor, for being here with us today. We cannot wait to hear more about what you have to say in this topic.
Hi, Kelly. Thanks very much for having me, and please call me Ron.
Okay, Ron. I cannot wait because I see a book right behind your head. Can you tell us a little bit about that book and how you got started in becoming an author? I'm just very curious of how this all came to be.
Sure. Well, my background is in positive health psychology. Uh, Worked as director of psychology at one of the world's major headache centers for decades. And as I got older, uh, one of the things that I was noticing is that not everybody ages the same way. And so much depends on your mindset, so much depends on your habits, so much depends on your commitment to staying active. And so I just felt it was very important. I mean, we now have the science that enables people to live to be 100 and beyond. We now have, you know, blocks of time for many people that are can extend for decades after retirement. It's a long time to be declining. So my goal is to help people to thrive, to flourish, to be the best person that they can throughout the older adult years. And that kind of inspired me to get the book written and try and get it out into the world.
I
And
love
see what,
it.
and can you believe, Dr. Ron, today's your birthday, right? Is that
Yep.
correct? And how old are you now, Dr. Ron?
87.
He is
Coming to
87 years old. That's the thing, Kelly, that impresses me so much is that he practices what he preaches in his book, Rejuvenaging, the Art and Science of Growing Older with Enthusiasm. And really what he does, he looks at a lot of things that we're going to talk about in this podcast today. But Kelly, talk about, as a working as a dietitian with older adults and the challenges sometimes to get them to do things, especially when you're consulting with them.
Well, I think Dr. Ron is right that people do not age the same. And I've seen a lot of clients over my couple of decades. My birthday is actually in a couple of days. So I think it's pretty funny. It's actually on Thursday. So we're really pretty close in those Scorpios, right? But it's just interesting in my work as with a dietitian and working with clients that you may see someone who's 50 years old who's actually aging terribly versus someone who's 80 years old and is very vibrant and healthy. So what is the difference? And I agree with you. It's nutrition. It's their what is their family situation like? Do they feel like they're doing something that's positive in society? And it sounds like, are you still practicing today? And it sounds like you are.
Yes, I still see some patients, but also I'm uh, really committed to my other gig, which is Better Age, which is a company that's devoted to increasing the health and well-being of older adults throughout the world. You'll be hearing more of us as we move forward. I'm Chief Immersion Officer there, and we're our commitment is so much the same that this was a natural fit for me. And of course, I also try to use my non-work time to stay as fit as I possibly can, because it isn't all that hard if you really commit yourself to it.
I'm curious, what do you do to keep moving? What is your go-to?
All right, well, I have come up with what I call the non-negotiable four, which is basically starts with healthy eating, and then what I call owning your body, which includes exercise, proper sleep. I throw in things like meditation and other stress management techniques. So that's two things: the healthy eating, owning your body, keeping your mind active. Being able to constantly learn new material, be interested, be curious, because we know that that's one of the things that enables people to ward off dementia, Alzheimer's, and other kinds of things is being able to learn novel things. And the other thing that's very important is to stay socially connected. We're social animals. That's enabled us to survive as a species. And we know that loneliness in the older adult age range is really a killer, in much the same way as, sedentary lifestyle, obesity, smoking, all those things are fairly together in terms of having the same risk factors. So it's those four: kind of healthy eating, keeping your mind active, owning your body, and staying socially connected. And I try to do that on a regular basis. Again, I can tell you what I do from the standpoint of your field in terms of how I try to eat, but also make sure that I walk every day for about 45 minutes. Before a hip replacement, I used to do a little more than walking, but I do the walking and then try and do resistance exercises about 3 times a week, as well as at this age, got to be concerned about balance and flexibility. So I do balance exercises on almost a daily basis too.
Do you go into a gym space so that you get that socialization, or are you doing a lot of these workouts at home?
Well, I always belonged to a gym, and as I got older, it was a real source of pride to be able to see these younger people struggling, to lift certain weights, and then I'd walk behind the machine, see what it's set at, and it's less than what I would lift at. So, I mean, that was a real plus. Now, during COVID, when the gym was closed, I got a lot of equipment here, so I typically, don't work out at the gym as much as I do here. Still miss it, and my walking very often is done with other people who are committed to keeping themselves in shape too.
And Kelly, this goes all to the new push we're seeing of health being important, especially younger people today are focusing, Kelly, more on their health. Would you agree? You're starting to see that more and more of what age group area? Because that's hard when Dr. Ron's area, the baby boomers, really don't have that focus on nutrition, focus on health as much as younger people do today. Kelly, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think there's a lot more because of social media. People are able to share their opinion on health. We're talking about health. I think a lot has changed in this arena. But it's very interesting. I mean, I have one in college and one in high school, very focused on health and wellness, but they also have a dietitian mother who was also focused on it too. So it's interesting. My daughters will say, the friends, they don't know about it is the way that we do, which is interesting. So I think even for young people, the education is key. But something we've been talking about recently, and I want to get your take on this if you think it's going to change anytime soon. Medicaid right now, you can have full coverage to see a registered dietitian up until the age of 65. And once you turn 65, Medicaid only covers for you to see a dietitian if you have diabetes or if you have kidney disease. I'm not sure if you knew that, but that is where we are in the state of things, and seeing if you think that that's going to change anytime soon.
Well, I think it's going to change if we get enough people who are in a position of power who are committed to making that change. I mean, as a psychologist, I mean, this is a battle we've been fighting in many fronts forever. I mean, it's only recently that there started to be laws that that allowed for parity in the way that psychologists or psychiatrists were paid relative to people who are being seen for medical diagnosis. I mean, I think there's always, and we saw the same thing in terms of NIH funding, things of that nature, that you could get a lot more to study disease than you could to study wellness. And I mean, it was one of the appeals to me as a positive psychologist as this field began to explode, to recognize that, hey, it's not a matter of finding what your issue is and then trying to get you to neutral and then saying, okay, my job is done. You're no longer as depressed or whatever it may be. But the goal really needs to be to thrive, because, the fact is we're aging as a population. It's going to be a lot greater expense to take care of sick people than it is to take care of well older people. And I think it's in society's interest to do so. So I hope that, the changes in Medicaid will revert back to the healthier orientation that takes place at a younger age.
I agree. I did some TV spots this morning on National Diabetes Awareness Month. And before the spot, we were looking up statistics, and something that came up, and I want to get your take on this, is there was 98 million Americans have prediabetes and 39 million actually have diabetes. And of those statistics, only 2 million actually have type 1. So when we're talking about all of this, how it's affecting, is they're doing research now on how it's affecting mental health, how it's affecting dementia, and your likelihood with having these chronic diseases. So I wanted to see if you had any research on that, because I think I'm very interested to see.
Well, I don't have the specific numbers in front of me now, but we know type 2 diabetes is one of those that where there's such a preventable element to it. And so many disorders are like that, heart disease in many cases, so on. People are a lot more kind of trained to think in terms of responding to crises than in terms of prevention. So that, yeah, if you got diabetes, there's treatments for it. But the treatment for not getting diabetes is to lead a healthy lifestyle. And
Right. And that's the hardest thing, is you got to really tell people to live that healthy lifestyle. And I think when you're seeing Dr. Ron and Kelly, that older adults just need to be educated more. And I don't know, it's younger people, we have to build it up, but start early when you're looking at the older adults, right, Dr. Ron, to when they should start to really look at focusing on their health. If they had decided not to, what to make those changes, because it's going to cost them a lot of money that they made. It's going to cost a lot in healthcare, and it's going to cost freedom in life, health.
yeah, definitely. And if the COVID pandemic taught us anything, it's you really, as an older person, don't want to be in a facility with a lot of other immunocompromised people, because that's where a large number of the deaths occurred. So that the goal, it's always easier to keep doing what you're doing. So if you're living a healthy lifestyle, it's a lot easier to keep doing it. I mean, it's no challenge for me to turn down a dessert that I wouldn't eat anyway. It's no challenge for me to, I mean, I remember when I used to work in an office, they would, vendors or patients would bring in some kinds of foods and treats, and the orientation of some people is, well, if I don't get it now, it may not be there when I come back later because it'll all be eaten. When the orientation should be, am I hungry? Would I be eating this if nobody brought it in? So, I mean, they're just little kinds of things. There are lots of, I mean, I don't need to tell you, Kelly, because, but, the notion of if you take a snack and then you wrap it up and you put it in the packaging into the cupboard or the refrigerator, you have to affirmatively say that, hey, I'm gonna screw up and break my diet for this. There's just so many little tricks that I'm sure you're going to be getting into in your podcast and all your other work that makes it just so much easier. And if that's part of your lifestyle, then you don't think in those other terms.
And I think, Dr. Ron, so much goes back to education. And if you weren't educated, if you did grow up in a household where you witnessed these unhealthy behaviors, you're more likely to do the same because you weren't educated on how to have those little tips. So, in your line of work, what are some of the tips that you would give to someone that's listening on this podcast today?
Well, there's several. First of all, just from a healthy eating standpoint, the important thing is to recognize that it's a lot easier than people think that or give it credit for. I know when I wrote my book, for example, my editor talked me out of making healthy eating the first chapter because he says so many people are going to get turned off by it. My general orientation is that that's the easiest thing you've got to do, because it's not like going into a room and learning how to overcome shyness or something like that, where you're really dependent on the other person, accepting you too. This is totally dependent on yourself. So the important thing is to educate yourself on it, to recognize, what is the clue that triggers the eating response. And the logical thing is to structure in certain times in the day when you're going to eat, number one, and then to plan what you're going to eat. I mean,
Right.
I don't,
100%.
yeah, it's been years since, I mean, the fact that I pass an ice cream store doesn't mean I'm going to stop in and get something, because that's not in the plan. So, I mean, I think, and it's kind of like going to the gym. People who don't ever go to the gym can't imagine, why would you in the middle of the day, you have to change your clothes, you have to do this stuff, you have to grunt and do all this stuff, and then you have to shower and all that. I don't know anybody who regularly goes to the gym who regrets doing it, or who wouldn't feel worse if they didn't do it. And I think it's the same thing here. I mean, with eating, especially if you, it's rarely that I eat some of the things that I eat red meat, or processed red meat, or processed meat of any type. But if I do, I feel it the next day. So I mean, it's rewarding to feel healthy.
And Kelly, I guess the challenge you go through on a regular basis with any adult is basically to tell them this is the way you should eat. This is going to be the best for your body when they see so many people having the shortcuts, right, Kelly?
Well, it's funny that you bring up the processed meat. So I just did a article for the Washington Post, and he asked me all about ultra processed foods. And I said, let me tell you a really fun story. And I think this is where the relatability, if we can relate and bring up fun stories, then our clients hopefully will understand what we're trying to achieve. So when my kids were little, we were in the store. They're like, Mom, we want to buy the bologna. We want to buy bologna. And I was like, okay. We had Mr. Mittens at home, the cat, who loved turkey and he loves chicken and tuna fish and all this. And I said, you know what? If we bring this home and we put it in front of Mr. Mittens, let's see if he eats it. And if he eats it, great, we could buy it again. But let's see if he will. And they're like, he will, he'll eat anything. Cut it up, put it in front of him. He smelled it and walked the other direction. And you guess what? They've never asked for bologna since. So it was one of those things that I was able to show them that that's not actually a real food. And Mr. Mittens knows it. He knows it's not a real food, and he's not going to put that in his body. So it was a really great way to show them, and then using that analogy when I'm doing presentations. But I think that if we can relate and show little things like that to educate, is going to help a lot.
And Dr. Ron, you see it as well with people saying these quick ideas of how to stay in shape, to get healthy, certain intermittent fasting, all these different things. And it's everybody is different, right?
Yeah, I think you have to work out what's going to work for you. I mean, I think there are certain general principles. I don't know, Kelly, your thoughts on diets, but I know, formal diets generally don't work. And things that are sometimes called diets, like, I mean, the Mediterranean diet or Blue Zones diets, I think I think are healthy. You may disagree, I don't know, but I try and stick fairly close to a Mediterranean type diet. So much so that, I mean, this morning, one of my uh, it was my luck that my birthday falls on the day that the supermarket in our neighborhood uh, has a discount for seniors. So on Tuesdays, sometimes if it works, I try and shop. Then I kind of planned that, hey, maybe I'm going to get myself a cupcake for my birthday because I won't see the grandkids until the weekend and so on. Um, and I got there and, I thought, geez, maybe a chocolate cupcake or something. I got there and I looked at it, why am I doing this? Why would I want to do that? I mean, it's kind of, I wouldn't do it on a regular day. What's the big deal? So I mean, I do think that if you adhere to certain kind of principles, just like I said with the gym or when I started doing yoga, you know, things feel right. You feel better when you're healthy than when you don't.
Well, I am with you on the diets. Our tagline for 12 years has been real people promoting real food.
Hmm.
And I think if you look at any of the blue zones, any of them, they're all different types of diets. And I don't think one is better than the other. It's like you said, it's a lifestyle of what they're doing at in that location. So is one that's in the Mediterranean better than one that's in Costa Rica? Not necessarily because those are the foods that they had available, but what they're doing is that, like you said, the socialization. They have a purpose. They're eating real food. They're being, I do like the Mediterranean for the wine purpose, though. That's my one thing. I really do, Dr. Ron. I love my red wine. And I know alcohol is not the best, but I do like that it's actually on the Mediterranean
Yeah.
diet.
Yeah, as long as that's not the only thing that you're doing, some people say, okay, I'm following the Mediterranean diet. I'm drinking red wine all the time.
So what do you think the biggest challenge, Kelly, working with older adults?
Well, I think the lack of socialization, I think it is a problem because when you're younger, you're cooking for a family, you have more people around you, you're going out more, even with work, you're in socialization. I'm sitting right now and there's four women right I can see in my view. We're here, we're eating together. I think as you get older, you're more isolated and you're not having those experiences of cooking a large meal or having that variety also. You may be cooking for yourself, so I think that is really difficult when we get into nutrition as aging. But also sometimes your taste preferences change. So, it just depends on where we are on the spectrum. I think, what you did in the past and where you are today, and looking to see what are some easy meals that we can put together. What works for you? How can we prepare ahead of time, like Dr. Ron was saying too, to ensure that we're getting all the nutrients, vitamins, and protein the body still needs.
Oh, excellent. This is such a great conversation. Again, we talk about older adults and nutrition, and dietitian as a dietitian, Kelly, and all these different things. Dr. Ron, could find Dr. Ron Kaiser anywhere on social media, anywhere. Just search Dr. Ron Kaiser and you'll find him. Facebook, all different social aspects. Kelly, best place to find info on you.
Kelly'sChoice.org and Instagram at Kelly's Choice _nutrition.
All right. That was the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and nutrition and education for all, guys. Take care.